betrayal of family trust. Family trust is like a fortress built over generations, brick by brick, through shared secrets, vulnerabilities, and intimate moments. When someone betrays this trust by exposing deeply private matters, it's like detonating the foundation of this fortress, causing damage that extends far beyond the immediate impact. The unique cruelty of family trust betrayal lies in its exploitation of intimate knowledge. Every family has its shadows, the unspoken struggles, the hidden challenges, the private battles. When these are exposed maliciously, it's not just information being revealed, it's the violation of an unwritten sacred covenant that holds families together. The betrayer often knows exactly which secrets will cause maximum damage because they've been privy to the most vulnerable moments. The ripple effects of such betrayal often span generations. Children grow up in the aftermath, inheriting the distrust and caution of their parents. Family gatherings become minefields of unspoken tensions. The betrayal doesn't just hurt the immediate target, it fundamentally alters how future generations approach trust and intimacy. The family unit, meant to be a safe harbor, becomes a source of anxiety and suspicion. Professional sabotage. Professional sabotage is like poisoning someone's life source slowly but surely. In our career-driven society, professional identity isn't just about earning money, it's about purpose, achievement, and self-worth. When someone orchestrates a professional downfall, they're not just attacking a job, they're dismantling a person's sense of self and their years of hard work. The methodology of professional sabotage is often subtle and calculated. It might begin with small actions, missing files, delayed emails, whispered doubts about competence. These build up like drops of water eroding a stone, creating a pattern of perceived incompetence or untrustworthiness. The true devastation lies in how it forces the victim to question their own abilities, creating a spiral of self-doubt that can persist long after the sabotage is discovered. The long-term impact extends far beyond the workplace. Professional sabotage can create a domino effect that touches every aspect of life: financial security, mental health, family stability, and future opportunities. Even when the truth eventually comes to light, the damage to reputation and self-confidence can be permanent. Digital revenge. In our interconnected age, digital revenge is like releasing a virus that can never be fully contained. Once private information enters the digital realm, it takes on a life of its own, multiplying and spreading far beyond the original intent. The permanence of digital footprints means that the damage can resurface years later, haunting victims long after the initial attack. What makes digital revenge particularly insidious is its ability to breach every aspect of modern life. Private photos, messages, or information can reach employers, family members, and complete strangers simultaneously. The victim experiences a profound loss of control as their private life becomes public spectacle. The psychological impact of digital revenge creates a unique form of trauma. Victims often develop intense anxiety about digital security, struggling to trust technology that's essential for modern life. This form of revenge doesn't just violate privacy, it fundamentally alters how victims interact with the digital world, often forcing them to live in fear of their past being weaponized against their future.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Social isolation. Social isolation as revenge is like building an invisible prison around someone. Humans are inherently social creatures, and systematically cutting someone off from their support network attacks a fundamental human need. The orchestrator typically works through subtle manipulation, planting seeds of doubt and distrust that grow into walls of separation. The process often begins gradually, with calculated whispers and strategic sharing of half-truths. The perpetrator creates a narrative that turns friends and community members against the victim, one by one. This forces the victim to watch their social world crumble while feeling powerless to stop it. But the long-term effects of social isolation can be devastating to mental and physical health. Victims often struggle with depression, anxiety, and trust issues that persist long after the isolation period. Financial destruction. Financial destruction as revenge is like dismantling someone's life foundation piece by piece. Money in modern society isn't just about wealth, it represents security, opportunities, and stability. When someone orchestrates financial ruin, they're not just attacking bank accounts, they're destroying dreams and future possibilities. The methodology often involves a complex web of actions designed to create maximum damage, such as sabotaging business relationships or manipulating financial records. The true cruelty lies in how it forces victims to watch helplessly as their financial security crumbles. The impact of financial destruction extends far beyond monetary loss. It affects family relationships, creates chronic stress, and can lead to long-term health issues. False criminal allegations. False criminal allegations weaponize the justice system itself against the victim. This revenge exploits society's tendency to presume guilt, especially in certain types of accusations. Even when allegations are eventually proven false, the shadow of suspicion often lingers indefinitely. The damage begins immediately with the accusation itself. The victim often faces social consequences, suspension from work, distancing by friends and family, and public scrutiny. The legal process becomes a form of punishment, draining resources and energy even before any verdict. Perhaps most destructively, false allegations create a permanent digital footprint that can haunt victims for life. Even after exoneration, simple internet searches can bring up these allegations, affecting job opportunities, relationships, and social standing for years to come. Custody manipulation. Custody manipulation is one of the most devastating forms of revenge because it weaponizes the most sacred bond between parent and child. This revenge doesn't just hurt the targeted parent, it creates deep psychological wounds in children who become unwitting pawns in an adult's game of vengeance. It's a form of emotional violence that echoes through generations. The manipulator typically employs subtle tactics over time, gradually poisoning the child's perception of the other parent. They might distort memories, exaggerate faults, or create false narratives about abandonment or lack of love. What makes this particularly cruel is how it forces children to reject a loving parent as a way to maintain connection with the manipulating parent. The targeted parent faces the impossible choice of either fighting back and potentially traumatizing the child further, or stepping back and allowing the alienation to continue. The long-term damage extends far beyond the immediate family. Children caught in these situations often develop attachment issues, trust problems, and difficulty maintaining healthy relationships in adulthood. They may carry guilt into adulthood when they realize they were manipulated into rejecting a loving parent. The targeted parent experiences a unique form of grief, mourning the loss of a living child who has been turned against them. This form of revenge doesn't just destroy a relationship, it alters the emotional development of the next generation. Identity theft. Identity theft, as revenge goes beyond simple financial fraud, it's an attempt to erase and replace someone's existence in the modern world. Unlike random identity theft, revenge-driven identity theft is typically more thorough and persistent, aimed at maximum life disruption rather than just financial gain. The perpetrator uses intimate knowledge of the victim to make the damage as comprehensive as possible. The attack often targets multiple aspects of identity simultaneously: financial accounts, social media, professional credentials, and personal relationships. The thief might take action specifically designed to damage the victim's reputation, like making inflammatory posts in their name or deliberately defaulting on loans. What makes this especially cruel is how it forces victims to constantly prove they are who they say they are, creating a profound crisis of identity and belonging. Recovery from revenge-driven identity theft can take years or even decades. Victims often find themselves fighting battles on multiple fronts with financial institutions, government agencies, and social networks. The psychological impact can be severe, leading to paranoia about security and a persistent feeling of vulnerability. Even after the practical aspects are resolved, many victims struggle with a lingering sense of violation and loss of control over their own identity. Academic sabotage. Academic sabotage strikes at the heart of someone's intellectual identity and future prospects. In academic environments, reputation and integrity are everything. When someone orchestrates academic sabotage, they're not just attacking current status, they're potentially destroying years of work and future opportunities that depend on academic credibility. The methods often exploit academia's strict standards around integrity. False plagiarism claims, tampered research data, or manufactured evidence of cheating can trigger automatic investigations and suspensions. The accuser often times their attack for maximum impact just before crucial examinations, thesis submissions, or job applications. The system's necessary vigilance against academic dishonesty can ironically make it an effective weapon for the vengeful. The damage often extends far beyond the immediate academic environment. A damaged academic reputation can close doors before they even appear, affecting career opportunities and professional networks for years to come. The victim may develop a form of academic PTSD, becoming overly cautious or paralyzed in their work, constantly fearing another attack. This revenge is particularly cruel because it targets not just what someone has achieved, but what they might have achieved. Relationship destruction. Systematic relationship destruction is like orchestrating a social death by 1,000 cuts. The perpetrator methodically targets every significant relationship in someone's life, using intimate knowledge to create custom-tailored destruction plans for each connection. This isn't just about ending relationships, it's about ensuring they end in the most painful and irreparable way possible. The methodology often involves a complex web of lies, half-truths, and manipulated evidence, carefully crafted to seem believable to each specific target. The attacker might exploit real vulnerabilities or past mistakes, blowing them out of proportion or presenting them out of context. What makes this especially devastating is how it often forces victims to watch helplessly as their entire social world turns against them, with each relationship ending in a uniquely painful way. The long-term impact often manifests as a deep inability to trust or form new relationships. Victims become hypervigilant about sharing personal information or becoming vulnerable, knowing how it can be weaponized against them. The experience can create a form of social trauma where even potential new relationships trigger anxiety and fear. This revenge succeeds not just in destroying current relationships, but in poisoning the well for future connections. Medical malpractice framing. Framing a medical professional for malpractice represents a particularly sophisticated form of revenge that exploits society's trust in medical accountability systems. This attack targets not just a career but a fundamental identity, that of a healer. But the accusation itself often triggers automatic suspensions and investigations, creating immediate damage regardless of truth. The strategy often involves carefully constructed narratives that play on common medical fears and plausible mistakes. The accuser might manipulate medical records, coordinate with other false witnesses, or exploit actual minor errors by blowing them out of proportion. The medical profession's necessarily cautious approach to malpractice claims means that even obviously false accusations must be thoroughly investigated, creating professional limbo for the accused. The impact extends far beyond the immediate career damage. Medical professionals often experience profound identity crises when falsely accused of harming those they've devoted their lives to helping. The experience can create a defensive approach to medicine, leading to excessive documentation and cautious treatment decisions that affect all future patients. Even after clearing their name, many victims find their passion for medicine permanently tainted by the experience. Property damage. Property damage, as revenge goes far beyond simple vandalism, it's a calculated attack on the physical embodiments of someone's memories, achievements, and sense of security. The perpetrator typically targets items with deep emotional significance rather than just monetary value, understanding that certain possessions carry irreplaceable sentimental worth. What makes this form of revenge particularly cruel is its violation of personal space and security. When someone deliberately destroys cherished possessions, they're not just attacking objects, they're destroying tangible connections to precious memories, family history, and personal milestones. The loss of family heirlooms, personal creations, or items tied to significant life events creates a void that no insurance payment can fill. It's like burning someone's personal museum of memories. The psychological impact often manifests as a deep-seated sense of vulnerability and loss of control. Victims frequently develop attachment anxiety, either becoming overly protective of remaining possessions or afraid to form emotional attachments to new ones. The knowledge that someone deliberately targeted their most meaningful possessions can create lasting trauma around personal space and security. This revenge succeeds in not just destroying physical items, but in altering how victims relate to their personal environment and possessions going forward. Inheritance interference. Inheritance interference is a particularly dark form of revenge that exploits the vulnerability of both the dying and their intended beneficiaries. By manipulating wills or estate plans, the perpetrator not only steals material assets, but also corrupts the final wishes of the deceased, turning what should be a last act of love into a weapon of pain. The methodology often involves careful groundwork laid over time, gaining trust, isolating the target from family, and subtly influencing decisions during vulnerable moments. What makes this especially insidious is how it often occurs when families are already dealing with grief and loss. The perpetrator might exploit family tensions or create false narratives about intended beneficiaries, using the emotional chaos of impending loss to further their vengeful agenda. The damage extends far beyond financial loss. Victims experience a double grief, mourning both their loved one and the corruption of their final intentions. Family relationships often suffer permanent damage as members blame each other or question the true wishes of the deceased. This revenge succeeds in not just altering inheritance, but in poisoning the legacy and memories of the departed, creating wounds that can span generations. Character assassination. Character assassination is like a slow-acting poison in the social realm. Unlike simple slander, it involves a carefully orchestrated campaign to fundamentally alter how others perceive the target. The perpetrator typically builds their attack on grains of truth, distorting and exaggerating them until the target's entire character becomes questionable. The process often unfolds gradually, with calculated rumors and insinuations spread strategically through different social circles. Each piece of misinformation is crafted to seem plausible, making it difficult for the target to defend against. What makes this particularly devastating is how it creates a snowball effect. As more people believe the false narrative, their reactions and changed behavior toward the target seem to validate the original lies. The lasting impact often manifests as a profound loss of social identity. Victims find themselves constantly fighting an invisible battle against perceptions they didn't create. Even after proving allegations false, the lingering doubt in others' minds can create a permanent shift in how they're treated. This revenge succeeds in not just damaging reputation, but in fundamentally altering the victim's place in their social world. Legal system abuse. Legal system abuse represents a sophisticated form of revenge that turns society's mechanisms for justice into weapons of harassment. The perpetrator exploits the fact that defending against even frivolous lawsuits requires significant time, money, and emotional energy. It's like forcing someone into a game where participation is mandatory, but winning provides little relief. The strategy often involves filing multiple lawsuits across different jurisdictions or legal domains, creating a war of attrition that drains resources and energy. Each case might be legally weak, but the cumulative effect creates overwhelming pressure. The true cruelty lies in how it forces victims to actively participate in their own harassment, missing court dates, or failing to respond, can result in default judgments with real consequences. The psychological impact extends far beyond the courtroom. Victims often develop a deep distrust of the legal system and authority structures meant to protect them. The constant stress of pending legal matters can create chronic anxiety and make long-term planning impossible. Even after cases are resolved, many victims struggle with post-traumatic stress around legal matters, affecting their willingness to engage in normal business or personal contracts. This revenge succeeds in not just draining resources but in fundamentally altering how victims interact with societal institutions,